Jerry Jones says Ceedee Lamb is an upgrade over Amari Cooper as a number one receiver.
Quote, fake news. Fake news. You are fake news.
Well, it's been a lot of news out there, obviously, from Jerry Jones making his statement about Jerry Jones says Ceedee Lamb is an upgrade over Amari Cooper. But the issue is, especially if you've been following Dallas Cowboy sports, you already know that he's using Amari for publicity. This is all hype. This is all a stunt. I did a video over a week and a half ago where I talked about, does the Dallas Cowboys have doubts on Ceedee Lamb? So I'm gonna get into the high point just real quick of that video.
Hey, Bobby, is this kind of one of those make or break years for Ceedee Lamb, you think?
Yeah, so great question by Brian Broaddus. Asked him a week and a half ago, is this a make or break year? Now listen to Bobby Belt, who's been in discussions with all those front office people, and what he says.
When you start to talk about contracts and stuff?
I do, yeah, because, I mean, when you're talking about the fifth-year option, look, I think that I believe their thought process there inside the building right now when it comes to Ceedee Lamb, when they're looking at him and evaluating him, they believe he's going to be able to take the next step and that he'll be able to step in and be the true number one. But I think if you were to ask people like an honest moment away from, the cameras and off the record and just said,
see, you got to understand, that's his job, and that's what he does. He's been talking to these people off the record. That's why he's talking the way that he's talking. If you was to ask these people off the record, why is he able to say that with so much conviction? Because he has. And people got to use their common sense.
Is Ceedee Lamb's ceiling now, or his potential, is it as high as you believed it was the day you drafted him? I think unanimously they would tell you no, that they just don't quite think he's the guy that they picked. I think they still think very highly of him and think that he can be a number one in this league, but I think they have been a little disappointed with what they've seen, and that he doesn't have that alpha energy, it feels like, to just go out there and take over a game. See,
so in the public, Jerry Jones is saying Ceedee Lamb is an upgrade over Amari Cooper as the number one receiver. This is why I'm saying on the thumbnail, don't believe the hype from Jerry Jones about Ceedee Lamb better than Amari Cooper. That's not saying that he can't. That is not saying that he won't. What I'm saying is don't believe the hype. Because Ceedee Lamb very well could. I'm going to talk about how and why, but it's not for the reasons that some people might think. The saddest part about this stuff is it's a lot of good people that's getting played. Let me finish this and I'm gonna show you that though.
Just seen it very infrequently at this point, and even though I know that was a complaint a lot of people had about Amari Cooper, was that he would disappear, come and go, things like that. There were several moments where he just took over games, and I don't think we've seen that from Ceedee yet, and I think that's what they're waiting on. So it's going to be a big year to see that type of production out of him and that type of ability out of him, and if they don't get it, then, I don't know that the fifth-year option is necessarily going to be in question, but I think his long-term security here might, and they might say, well, look, let's just, repopulate with the draft, go ahead, exercise that fifth-year option, keep him around, but, this isn't the guy that we thought he was. So, yeah.
So, this is why this is sad, all right? So, unless you follow in Dallas Cowboy sports, you could be falling for the lies, right, and the hype. Yeah, so and this is hype, this is publicity, and it's working. It's a whole lot of Cowboy fans that's sharing this type of stuff, making the case for Jerry. But see, if you follow Dallas Cowboy sports, you already know Jerry already messed up. See, this is a classic part of a movie from Menace to Society. And in Menace to Society, Kane was being interrogated by a police officer, and his story started to get twisted. And when his story began to get twisted, the detective pointed his finger at him and said, you effed up, don't you? You effed up, don't you? See, that's the problem for people that don't follow Dallas Cowboy sports. They don't know that Jerry already messed up, that they already revealed the real reasons why Ceedee Lamb and Amari comparable numbers didn't match up. But if you don't, and you don't follow channels that give you facts, you can fall for the spin. So I'm gonna give you an example of that. So this is sad to watch. So this guy named Mario Leisure, he has a pretty big group. Let me see, about 7,000 members, and he said, and Jerry is right, because he falling for the propaganda. And then I just said back to him, I said, if you believe that Jerry is sincere, you have not been paying attention. He said, sincere, more like spitting facts. And so I said, okay, I will do a video to show you that Jerry is playing you like a drum and a trumpet. Their past statements already disprove this publicity stunt. Now, Mary, she hit it on the head. She say, until the contract comes due. Ooh. See, she's speaking in algebra when some people thinking in 2 + 2 basic math. See, she really saying what's really going on. So basically, they're going to prop up Ceedee Lamb until it's time for him to get paid. That's what she's saying, and I totally agree. I'm gonna talk about that more. But then if you go look also at some of the conversations, some people getting it. Arthur said only because of price, he won't be saying this in 2 years. Agree, right? For those who really know, this guy said, Jerry Jones, will you please shut up? And so this guy, Rick, you can tell he's a well-meaning fan. He said, we will not know this until we see him perform without Amari. Good, fair thought. He said he has 0 track record as a number 1 and then looked good last season with Coop when Coop was out. This guy talking real football. He said Dak never looked the same without him either. I'm hopeful but not optimistic. Please, if Jerry said it, right? So then that got Rick, obviously lobbying for Jerry. He posted the stats. He says Ceedee at the exposition ranked 4th best in the NFL and averaged 9th most yards per route in 2021. He had 14 out of 20 contested catches, broke 19 tackles after the catch across 80 receptions. Yeah. So, but see, the context of that is, yeah, you was playing the X, but who was taking the pressure off of you? Even if they was playing the Y or the slot. So that thought was right by Rick. He was like, yeah, see, they saying he did this in the X, but also who was he facing? Right? Because we know Amari was taking the number 1 corner. We know that. They was assigning the number 1 corner to Amari. So even if you was lined up at the X, if you at the X versus a number 2 corner or a nickelback, which one had the harder job? So you just can't post stats out of context and then make us say, okay, that makes sense when it don't. When you're not looking at the whole narrative, you're not looking at the whole context of what was happening with Amari taking pressure off of Ceedee Lamb. So it's also no way, to Rick's point, for us to actually know that Amari is a upgrade. I'm sorry, Ceedee Lamb is an upgrade, because we did not see Ceedee Lamb assume the mantle as a bona fide number 1. So if you look at Minnesota, Thielen was the number 1, but then Jefferson took over as the bona fide number 1 through play. Right? So they began to put the number 1 corner on Jefferson as Thielen was on the field. So you could have confidence, if you was Minnesota, that Jefferson has assumed the number 1 and is a better number 1 than Thielen. Why? Because you saw it. You have not seen it with Ceedee Lamb. It's not there yet. That don't mean it can't happen, but to just be like, Jerry is right. So, no. That's believing the hype. That's falling for the Kool-Aid without measuring it. And so now this person sadly is falling for the hype too. And that's the problem with this publicity stunt by Jerry. It's tricking good, well-meaning Cowboy fans. This guy Matt said Jerry looks at a lot of things $20 million a year for 800 yards wasn't it. So you got some Jerry Jones defenders, but like I told you, this is the key. They already talked. See, they already got statements in the past that contradicts the statements they saying now. They done messed up. Yeah, they done messed up. But what the problem is, you got to follow channels who's keeping up with this stuff and that's organized enough to showcase the contradictions. So I'm gonna show you another contradiction, because if you just looking at Amari's yards and don't look at the why his yards was down, then you go be we sick boss Jerry. You gonna be defending Jerry when Jerry is really playing you like a drum. He's playing you like a fiddle. Playing you like a straight up fiddle. Behind the scenes, according to Bobby Belt, they saying Lamb got beta energy. But in the public, to get you inspired, to get you to buy tickets, or to get you, and they'll use good people to do it. Amari is a professional. He has not ever talked bad against Dallas. Ever. Even with the Browns, he said, I like the franchise, but it's business. He was real professional. But how did we reward his professionalism and his pay cut? Remember, he gave Dallas a pay cut to play for us. But how did we reward that loyalty? With treachery, with throwing his name under the bus. But no, check this out, because they already told you why Amari didn't get his targets nor production. You just got to pay attention. Listen.
Back to the decision ahead on Amari, his usage, not just production, but in terms of how often he was targeted, even when he was on the field, it was down. Mm-hmm. What do you make of his relative lack of involvement, especially for someone, who's got the contract of a number one wide receiver?
I just think it's an offensive philosophy, and with when we had the skilled players that we had, between Kellen and Dak, I think there was a progression of where you threw the ball, and depending on how the defense played you, it would point the ball to certain places where, hey, if they're going to double over here and they're going to double over the top over here, then that's going to dictate that the ball goes here. So I think it's more of a system deal. It wasn't a thing where we just said, hey, we're not going to target Amari as much.
Is that the right system?
Oh, yeah. So they told you. They already spoke. See, some people say Amari only had 800 yards, but if you listen, that was at the Senior Bowl, right? They was, and they was taking questions, and he told them it really wasn't that Amari wasn't good. It's the fact that our system didn't fit him. And that's why Michael Gilkin at the end said, do you have the right system? Which was the perfect question, right? It was the perfect question, because what he said is it's our offensive philosophy. It's our system. So if we see a double here, which Amari was getting a lot of doubles, what they would do is then they would say, okay, that's going to dictate that the ball is going to go away from that double. So that allowed a defense to dictate where the ball was going. That's not Amari's fault. That's your stupid offensive philosophy fault. That's their fault. That's not Amari's fault. That because you saw a double look, or they looked like they was getting ready to bracket him, you would say, okay, let's go away from Amari. And that's why the playmaker spoke against our system. What he specifically said is, in our system, you have a system to where you making role players stars and stars role players. Yeah, Michael Irvin talked about that when he was speaking about the NFL going away from playmakers, which we seeing around the whole league. This is not even a Dallas thing. This is more so a Scrooge owners trying to find ways to pay guys less. That's what's going on. And they trying to get offensive coordinators that are coming here and have a system that doesn't allow them to depend upon athletes. That's the real divide right now in the NFL. You have a difference of philosophy, just like Stephen Jones said. He said it's the philosophy of what is why Amari didn't get his targets. And I think it's straight up crazy for Schultz to have 104 targets equaling Amari, who also had 104 targets. So when you only see 104 targets to your number one, don't expect big yards. Yeah, because their system is not allowing him to get the targets that will feature his production. So this is the main thing that I'm getting ready to tell you. This is why I feel confident that ego is exponentially running this organization, right? And this is also why I'm predicting Ceedee Lamb will have a big year. Now, it might not be good for our total offense because I think they're getting ready to force feed Amari. I think we are built now, especially with Tyler Smith, to run the ball. But I think with the statement that Jerry Jones made, right, he is trying to show, and this is what I fear, that he was right about letting Amari go. So that's why he's going to likely dictate to Kellen Moore that y'all force feed the ball to Ceedee Lamb. I'm going to make you a prediction right now that I'm almost certain is going to happen. They're going to exponentially spike in 2022 the targets for Ceedee Lamb. Because you got a lot of fans like that guy that was in the group that's going to only look at the amount of yards, but they're not going to look at those targets that produce those yards. They go look at it real one-dimensional, and they're going to say, Lamb is better. Look, Lamb had 1,200. Amari only had 800 last year. See, he's a clear better number one. But if you gave Amari 104 targets and blamed your system, but now your system is going to all of a sudden get smart. It's going to get smart and figure it out. It's going to figure out all of a sudden in 2022 how to get your new number one more targets. It was more so deception. That's really what it was. And this is why I was predicting way before they cut Amari that they was going to cut Amari, because I was looking at the targets. I was looking at how they was using him. And it was obviously they was just trying to phase him out. It wasn't that he didn't deserve targets. It's that they didn't want to pay him in the offseason. So they wanted to get fans like that guy Mario on their side by limiting the targets to hurt his production. So then in the offseason, they can make statements like this. Ceedee Lamb is an upgrade over Amari Cooper. But Bobby Belt been telling us behind the scenes that they saying, but we really think he's a beta. He's a beta. He's not an alpha. Cooper was actually an alpha. But in the public, they say, oh, he's better. He's better. They playing us, man. So it's one of those things. Listen to me in context. Listen to me fully in context. Yes. Yes. Is it true that Ceedee Lamb could get better production in 2022 than Amari Cooper? Yes, that part is true. Does that necessarily mean he's better? No. That's why I'm saying don't believe the hype. It's too many lies. It's too many contradictions. It's too many statements that they made themselves in the past. It's too many secrets of talking bad about Ceedee Lamb, calling them beta behind the scenes, and we don't think he's an alpha, but in the public, yeah, because it's to get you hype, it's to get you optimistic, but it's not going to be based on truth. So what I hope happens next year is this. I hope that they target Ceedee Lamb in a balanced offense. I hope they don't target him in ego. I hope they target him in balance where we still establish ourselves with the running game, which should then open him up to have justified quality targets. So, but I'm not expecting that because there's too much ego involved right now. So if you like this content, you make sure that you like Boss Cowboy Sports. That's how you go push this up. And we're going to continue to give you real balanced analysis on the Dallas Cowboys. We go give you measured Kool-Aid on this channel. And we already warned. We told y'all that this was coming. Behind the scenes, they were showing doubt, and then they showing a whole nother picture in the public. Don't fall for it, but stay with us so we can continue to give you the truth on this matter and share this content. Y'all stay up. Peace.